Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Mikkel Thorup, and this is the Expat Money Show. Today, I am joined by my co-host, Marc Clair. Marc, how are you, sir?
Well, Mikkel, I'm doing well. Good to be back in the studio once again.
Absolutely. We're going to be picking up where we left off on my adventures around the world. But before we do that, I just want to mention to everybody that tickets are currently on sale for our Wealth, Freedom, and Passport Conference happening March 6th and 7th, 2026, live in Panama City. Now, to be transparent with everybody, there are a limited number of tickets. Why are there a limited number of tickets? Because of fire codes and how many people we can actually fit in the venue. So there is a hard stop on the number of tickets, meaning that it's probably a good idea to pause today's episode and go to expatmoney.com/conference and secure your ticket right now, because I can't mess with fire codes. I can't mess with how many people. This is not an arbitrary number. I cannot have unlimited tickets. I wish I could. I genuinely wish I could just have everybody, but there will be a limit, and I promise this will sell out. So expatmoney.com/conference. We're going to be doing March 6th and 7th. 6th is the conference. 7th is the tours. The night of the 7th is going to be my 43rd birthday party. It's going to be amazing, a lot of fun. I had a meeting, by the way, the other day, Marc. I'll tell you off air. We got some really cool stuff planned for the birthday party this year. Like, it's going to be amazing. Yeah.
I almost prefer to be surprised, but we'll see. You can disclose what you need to.
This is also okay. This is also okay. I mean, I'm going to be counting on you heavy for the conference. You will be emceeing for the event, and you'll have direct. But on the birthday party is your time to relax as well, my friend. You're going to be enjoying the party and socializing and mingling with everyone.
The mariachis were a pleasant surprise last year. As you know, I'm half Mexican, you could say. I've married into being partially Mexican, yes. So I really enjoyed the mariachis for sure last year, amongst many other interesting surprises.
Well, I'll tell you guys, we are not doing the mariachi band again this year, although they were incredibly amazing and I loved them and I was super happy. We're going to try something new, but I'm not going to tell you guys. You just need to show up. It's also worth noting, Marc, that on the 5th of March, we're going to have our first ever Expat Money paddle tennis tournament. Not ping pong, not table tennis. It is paddle, which is like a new phenomenon here in Latin America and is super, super fun. And actually, I had people over for dinner last night, and they were all paddle players, and they were all in love with it as well.
And to get a preview of what that looks like, if you've never actually seen paddle tennis, by the time this airs, people will be able to go over to our YouTube channel, look up our latest Paraguay tour video. I'll link to that in today's show notes as well. And you'll be able to see the live action footage of the paddle tennis tournament that took place on that Paraguay trip.
That video is amazing. I screened it on the big screen the other day with my kids and my wife, and we all really enjoyed it. And I was very hungry at the end of watching the movie.
I made the same comment to Andres, our editor. I said, "Great video. My only issue is it was really hard to get through without having to go get a meal because the food just looks amazing."
When you come on a tour or an event with us, if you leave the table still hungry, it's your fault, because there is just like copious amounts of food and it's all there for you. It's all really high quality, very, very good food. And in the video, we showcase the food and the desserts and the meat and the wine and everything like that. So I was pretty stoked when watching it, but then very, very hungry.
Indeed. No, the food stands out.
So, Marc, let's get into today's episode. And I'm going to kind of kick us off. Just a quick recap of what we talked about last time. I was telling you all about our trip to Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Turkey, Prague, and Slovakia. I went with my wife and my eldest child and our newest baby, which, by the way, Marc, I am 7 months behind on producing a podcast episode of doing birth tourism in Mexico with my wife for our fourth child. But we do have a fourth child, a happy little Mexican girl. You've
mentioned it a few times, I think, almost in passing, but yes. There was another birth experience abroad here this year.
Exactly. And she's now already been to, 7 or 8 countries, I think, at this point. So she's already an international.
She's already got a pretty impressive passport, I got to say.
Exactly. She's actually got multiple passports on already, and we were actually just having a family office meeting with my staff and with my lawyer and stuff like that. And there are some outstanding passports that she qualifies for, but we haven't yet got all the paperwork together. So I'm kicking everybody's butt to kind of get everything ready. But she'll have, I don't know, 4 or 5 passports, by the end of, maybe not the end of this year, but by the end of next year, she should be good on that.
Not too shabby.
Yes. So we left off last episode. I told you all about the experience, and then we landed back in Panama. But because of the timing of the flights and everything like that, I was only in Panama for like a whopping 15 hours. So I hadn't seen my sons in a month. And then I got in, slept, spent a couple hours with my boys, and then got on an airplane and then flew to Miami.
Just before you get too far, Mikkel, I just want to intervene just in case people haven't heard that full story that got us to this place, because I think the context will be very important to understand how much actually went on in such a short amount of time. That is episode 383 of the Expat Money Show. So you have to go back a couple episodes in your podcast feed to find that one. That's the episode all about Central Asia. So go check that one out. And as soon as you're done, hop right back into this conversation, and then you'll really feel the full experience, because let's just say a lot happened.
Very good point. If you did not listen to that episode, fully agree. You better listen to it. I got so many comments. We actually, by the way, just did a Colombia trip, which we're going to record another episode about in the future, Mark. And I think half the people on the trip came up to me afterwards or during the trip and were like, holy moly, I listened to that episode. That was unbelievable. So I had a lot of feedback, a lot of comments on that.
It's an experience. Listening is an experience, of course. Hearing the story is experience. Of course, your experience is something else entirely. But you got to listen to find out. That's all we'll say.
So as I was saying, Mark, I want to go on record officially. Miami Airport is the 7th layer of hell.
It's not one of the good points about the state of Florida. I'll tell you that.
Wow. That is just... It's just abusive. Like, it's so degrading going through a situation like that with TSA. It's just, and Mark, I was there when they were doing the government shutdowns and stuff like that. So what was already a terrible, long, arduous process was compounded by the fact that they only had like 1/3 of the employees working.
Who are the ones that are so committed to their TSA job that they're the ones that suck around? I don't even know if I don't think those are the ones you want to be encountering.
Well, going in from Panama was, the whole process was not great, but coming in back, just to kind of jump ahead, coming in from St. Kitts was insane. Thousands upon thousands of people in lineup. And like 6 officers working or something like that. It was this, remember that game like Snake where it goes back and forth, like forever? That was this, except you would go all the way to the end and then come back and it's like you hadn't even moved. Like it was just...
And you're actually just next to a guy that you just thought was in front of you.
Oh my God. It just took forever. So anyways, we got into Miami from Panama after my very short layover here, and we stayed at a Marriott in Miami. Now, I was rather frustrated. People know I am a Marriott lover. I am a Marriott Platinum. I should actually soon be a Marriott Titanium member because I stay with them so much. But in this instance, they had airport pickup. And they say to you, okay, you meet between this gate, and they're going to drive around and the bus will pick you up. Like, great. So we're standing out there and there's 3 of us out there. I've got my staff with me and we see the bus like blast past. We're like, what the hell? So we like try to wave and run after him and stuff like that. And he's gone. So you wait another half an hour and then the same thing. And so we're calling the Marriott, we're messaging them and stuff like that. They're like, hold on, let us check with the driver. And then the driver tells the Marriott employees, and the Marriott employees actually tell me, oh, the driver says that all the clients say things like that, basically calling me a liar. That,
everybody says they were there waiting, but exactly. I drove by. I stopped, of course. I stopped for 5 minutes and waited. You're right. Exactly
by the book, like I'm supposed to do. I was following all the rules. Those clients, they're the liars. I'm like, really, mate? Like, I'm going to make up this story. So
it's like calling Marty McFly chicken. You just don't do that. That's you don't do that with Mikkel.
So I was super frustrated, and I am very particular. All my friends and my clients and everything describe me as very particular. So it's like if someone tries to sneak like little lies by me, I'm like, I will hold on to this. I will dig deep until I get you to admit that you are incorrect and you have been dishonest. And I don't care what it takes for personal harm or my time or anything like that. Maybe I should just be more relaxed and just let it, water off a duck's back. But no, I'm going to dig in. So I dug in.
That's my wife. I got a bit of that in me too. So I perfectly understand. I'll stay on the phone for 3 hours to prove a point if I need to.
Exactly. Like, this is just unacceptable. And I understand that I am only harming myself at this point, and there will be no proper resolution. But there is just this itch. I have to keep going and going and going. So my friends and my family and my clients, they describe me as Mikkel is very particular, which I'm sure is just a nice way of saying I can be an a-hole sometimes, but don't cross me on these things. So I caused a big stink about it. We ended up having to get an Uber because after this driver ditched us twice, then they were finished. It was like I think he just knocked off work early.
Shift is over, did my
exactly.
part, right? Check the boxes.
Yeah. So we got an Uber, and then we got there, and then we had a bit of an argument with the staff there. And then she sees that I'm a platinum member, and
now the mood changes, right?
Yeah, now the mood changes drastically. It's like, okay. You're basically like one of the highest levels of Marriott on their loyalty program, and maybe I don't want to piss this guy off. So then it came to, hey, we've got the variety store over there with all of this stuff. Go and help yourself. Go on a shopping spree of snacks and ice creams and stuff like that. So,
Easy Mac and chips. Yeah, there's plenty
and
there.
Those Magnum, the Haagen-Dazs ice cream bars and stuff like that.
Yeah, I know these. I know these little stores well. All right.
But it's like midnight at this point, and so for dinner,
you're not getting a hearty meal in there. That's for sure.
Exactly. I think it's midnight. I'm having like 3 Haagen-Dazs ice creams for dinner or something like that, and like these bastards, So anyways, we made it through. We had a nice stay at the Marriott, and then first thing the next day, we took a flight to St. Kitts and Nevis, and it's direct flights from Miami. I wish that we could have just kind of hit Miami and then continued on, but the layover was 10 hours or 12 hours or something like that. So I had a full night's rest and then headed in.
You might actually be better off because my worst experience is particularly in that airport. It's a big hub for layovers. So often if we fly internationally, we end up having to go through Miami. And of course, these airlines, they seem to love to book flights so close to each other in the farthest away places and then act like you're the crazy one when you're like kind of rushing and you just get there at the end and they're like, well, I don't know where you were. I'm like, I didn't book this. Like, I mean, I booked it, but I didn't make this a bookable option. So I think you're probably better off with the extra night and not having to rush from one gate to another.
If you have 6 hours between, your gates are going to be side by side. If you have 90 minutes, they're going to be at the far side of the airport.
100%, probably in a whole other wing, and the one of those things where you got to take the little bus actually to get to the plane too.
Oh my God! Don't get me started on the bus. I got enough ranting to do in this episode. Okay, so. An interesting point about St. Kitts. So I am a St. Kitts citizen. I have a St. Kitts passport, but this was my very first time ever going to St. Kitts. So interestingly enough, we had to register in advance, a day or two in advance, via an app. And at first I was rather annoyed by the whole thing. I'm like, I'm a citizen there. Why am I having to register? And I've got to take a picture of myself, like a selfie with my phone. And I'm like, this is totally abusive. Didn't like it at all. And then I found out it's not just for the citizens. It's for everybody who's visiting the country. But get this, Mark, we land from Miami. And when we go through, there is basically a little tunnel. And you just walk through and there's a camera. And that's immigration. So you don't actually... You don't speak to anybody.
I've seen similar to that. Yeah, coming into the U.S., you're walking through the line. By the time you even get to the thing, they got you, and then you're all good. Yeah, just got to show the guy your passport. Yeah.
Now, I am against all of these digital IDs. I'm against facial recognition. I'm against all of these types of things. But I gotta say,
Boy, is
it was convenient.
Yeah,
I know morally and in my heart it's bad and it's wrong and I shouldn't admit this, but I just walked like 3 meters and the whole thing was done. And I didn't break stride. I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't have to give my hotel information. I didn't have to explain tourism or business. Did I, any of these types of things? I walked 3 meters through a little tunnel and I was done. And I was on the other side and I collected my bags and that was it.
I have two wolves inside of me when this sort of thing happens when I travel. The one is I see this dystopian sci-fi world around me and I just think, oh my God, this is how bad it is. And then 1 second later I'm through and I think, well, boy, oh boy, was that nice. So, it's all trade-offs at the end of the day.
100%.
Is it that different if they take a picture of me and know who I are than if I go up to a guy and show him who I am? I don't know. I mean, it's debatable. I'm not really arguing one way or the other.
Anyways, and it's like airports have cameras on every square inch of them. I think that is kind of my annoyance when people
it's
are
not like we'd otherwise be cloaked.
Exactly. It's like, oh, but they took my picture. Listen, they're taking your
pictures
anyways.
all over that thing. Yeah, come on.
So I have to say that was very good. Half of the Family Legacy Mastermind group was on that flight with us. So we actually had to transport a bus that picked us up and, half of the group was there. Half of the group came the day previous to enjoy the beach and everything like that. But that's why we were in St. Kitts. We're doing the first mastermind that we've done, small group mastermind. Now, I'm going to just explain how this works. This mastermind is not open to general public. You need to be a business class hub member, a first class member, a private client, some type of a paid membership with us to be able to get an invitation to join us. So everybody who came was already a client. So I already knew who they were. I already spent a lot of time with them. I've already worked on them. Now, my main work as a consultant is designing a plan B and implementing a plan B. This mastermind was not that. It was not more information about citizenship or bank accounts or company registration or anything like that, okay? This mastermind is really focused on passing on wealth to the next generation, how we prepare that generation to receive wealth, and then all of the structuring, estate tax laws, everything like that, and all of the mentality to grow your family over the next 100 years. So designing the 100-year mindset. And it was the first time doing something like this, but it is something I'm so passionate about, and I've been reading and researching and working and studying and menteeing under, very, very intelligent estate planning lawyers for years now. And this was my opportunity to consolidate a lot of this information, to put it into presentations, and then bring a group of people together to go through it. So I'll pause for a second before we kind of dive into the event itself, but just wanted to kind of say how passionate I am about this.
I think the preparing to receive part is a part that maybe I think a lot of people, when I was raised responsibly to think about savings and this sort of thing. But when we're talking about passing on generational wealth, in many cases, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 million and above dollars, you really need to be prepared to receive that kind of money. Even someone that was received responsibly, even someone that was raised responsibly, raised to understand savings and investing and all these basic sorts of things, even someone like that needs a lot more preparation to receive and manage that level of wealth.
100%. There is a giant movement going around the world right now, well, especially in Western society, with the die with nothing, die with zero type of mentality. You're going to go into retirement. You're going to spend down everything you have because you built up your wealth from zero. Therefore, your children or your grandchildren should also have nothing when they start. And everybody should be a self-made man from scratch. And I categorically reject this. I think it's a horrible type of thing. Really, what you're doing is you're telling your children that you don't trust them. Especially if you do have something and you give it all to charity, you're saying that you believe that the charity and a complete stranger is more responsible and has more claim to that wealth than your own bloodline, your own children. And it's admitting that you did a bad job as a parent or a grandparent, that they're not ready to receive the wealth, Okay? Like, think about the implications of a statement like that and a mentality on society with something like that. Like, that is just mental.
What does that say about the parent in the first place? Not to get not to get on people too much here, but if they're not prepared, you didn't prepare them. So it's really a
Correct.
two-way street.
Exactly. So that's what a lot of this mastermind was about, was you helping the next generation and getting them ready to receive it, and not just passing on money, but passing on values and other forms of capital. So one of the things that we talk about is that, okay, there's financial capital. This is probably the main thing that most people think about is financial capital, but there's actually 6 additional types of capital that people don't think of, like intellectual capital, like emotional capital, like reputational capital, okay? All of these things. So we spent hours discussing these things, how to identify them, how to flesh them out in your own family, and then even how to draft intellectual property documents around those types of capital so that when you are coming up against estate taxes, we can push the value of assets down and things can be passed on through different types of tax mechanisms like restrictive covenants and really advanced type of estate planning tools. But a lot of work needs to be done on this stuff in advance. You can't do it at the last minute. It needs to be prepared years in advance. So we really worked on all of these types of things and really helping families identify all forms of capital that they have built up. Because if you are in the $30 million plus net worth range, you've done something right. I mean, like, you've really figured something out, and there's probably something repeatable that we can document and use as intellectual property.
Much like with crafting an international plan B, getting a second residency, you don't want to wait until the political firestorm hits. You don't want to wait until you need to flee the country. In that same sense, you don't want to wait until for lack of better phrasing, until you're on your deathbed to plan this stuff. You want to have this done well in advance, well before you're in that situation where you need to figure it out. You want to have it figured out before you need it in that moment.
100%. I mean, tax planning and any of these types of planning needs to be done in advance. Now, let me just be clear. The whole event was not just about tax planning. It was really about the family. The family is the focus, but it is on this legacy, this dynastic type of mentality for passing on all forms of capital and for preparing people. So I don't want you to think it was a tax event. It was a family event. And on that note, we had, I believe, 13 guests there. This was a high-ticket event. It was $10,000 to attend the weekend event, and we had 13 people there for it. And we interviewed them after the event, and we actually will have testimonials we do testimonials on every trip and every tour. We're probably at a couple hundred testimonial videos for our services now at expatmoney.com. But people at the end said this was so worth the money that they would recommend this to anybody. It was like an absolute no-brainer to come. So let me just put that out there, guys. If you are a wealthy family, or if you are planning to be a wealthy family, if you're in the formative years of building up your wealth, then this still makes sense for you, right? So either you've built a sizable amount of wealth or you're expecting to build a sizable amount of wealth. Then you can go to expatmoney.com/legacy, and we've actually got the new dates there for 2026. I'm going to jump ahead. I'm going to tell you the dates, Mark. So we're going to do 2 events back to back. We're going to do a part 1 and a part 2. The first one is November 2nd to the 4th, 2026. Then we're going to take a day or 2 breather because these are really intense. And I need to let my voice recover because I basically talk all day, every day. And then the second one is November 6th to the 8th. So I'll stay in St. Kitts, and you can either join me for part 1, part 2, or the whole enchilada. The whole enchilada, and you're going to do part 1 and part 2 together, and it will include the break in between, which is actually a really good idea, Mark, because they have the workbooks and they can fit it in.
You have time. Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty nice resort. So, I mean, a couple extra days there is it's no small bonus. It'll be a very nice couple days.
Yeah. And you'll have your workbooks so you can fill out the workbooks. You can discuss with your spouse or your business partner or your adult child or whoever comes with you, and go through things. So, Mark, I want to read for you the presentations that we did in 2025 because I think it will be illustrative on the theme of this. So I'm going to read these for you, okay? So first of all, the theme, 100-year thinking. Most people plan until retirement. A few plan for their children's lives. Almost no one for the third generation or beyond. But the families that do take the time to build values-based constitutions, governance frameworks, and succession plans are the ones whose names live on. This retreat is your opportunity to start building that level of clarity and intention. We'll cover everything from family characters to dynastic trusts, from offshore legal structures to passing on your proprietary business wisdom as intellectual property. This year's mastermind is divided into 2 workshops, each of which will include unique presentations. You'll leave with a roadmap for the next century of your family's growth, resilience, and unity. So, session 1 from 2025. This is going to change a little bit, Mark, for 2026, but I just want you guys to kind of think. This is the theme of things. So session 1 was developing the 100-year mindset. Developing the 100-year mindset reframes you from the owner to the steward, shifting from short-term gains to generational vision, values, and governance. So you think in decades, not quarters, and lay the philosophical foundation for the rest of the retreat. Session 2, values, alignment, and incentives, defining the why behind the wealth. Families clarify their values and purpose, then draft a 100-year vision statement that will guide decisions, unify generations, and frame their dynastic's identity. Session 3, governance documents, constitutions, investment policy statements, and operational guides. Turning vision into rules and systems, hand-on guidance for drafting the family constitution, which is the mission, values, and rules. Investment policy statements, your IPS, is your wealth management principles. The family operational guide, decision-making, counsels, conflict resolution. And then we also covered the letter of wishes, which is a personalized guidance for heirs. This is really a flavor type of document that explains the why behind the legal documents. Very important. Not always a fun experience to do a letter of wishes, a little bit uncomfortable, but extraordinarily powerful. Session 4, intellectual property as a dynastic asset, turning family knowledge into protected value. How to identify, document, and license proprietary systems, business models, and branding and processes as family-owned intellectual property, generating perpetual royalties and control. Session 5, advanced estate planning structures, the legal backbone of dynastic wealth, trusts, private foundations, and offshore structures, why jurisdiction's choice matters, and how to design robust 100-year frameworks. Session 6, U.S. estate and gift taxing laws for dynastic families, the American tax reality, overview of estate, gift, and generation skipping transfer taxes, shows how families can legally structure dynastic wealth to avoid devastating taxation across generations. Session 7, building a family office, how the ultra-wealthy stay private, agile, and in control. This session is about bringing order to your wealth. You'll see how to build a simple owner-run system that protects privacy, saves time, and keeps the important things visible at a glance. What you own, what's due, and who's responsible. We'll connect family values to daily disciplines and establish continuity so your loved ones know exactly where things are and what to do with them. Session 8, we talked about restricted covenants and legal guardrails, embedding protections that endure, explain how covenants, charters, and governance clauses can legally bind future generations to family values, asset protection, and long-term strategy. Then session 9 was our full session, let's say. This was preparing the next generation, education, training, and family culture. So passing on wisdom, not just wealth, how to raise, educate, and prepare heirs for stewardship. So we talked about teaching responsibility and financial literacy, rites of passage, mentorship, and traditions. We designed the family retreats, councils, and cultural rituals, and avoiding entitlement and fostering resilience. And then sessions 10 was closing reflections and comments. So really, this was a powerful conclusion to the weekend. Each family shared key takeaways and public commitments, emotionally close and reinforce accountabilities, community, and a sense of beginning of a 100-year journey. So that was the agenda. Each presentation, Mark, was 60 minutes long, followed by Q&A and workbook exercises. So we had these different exercises. So everybody got into pairs with their partner or with their colleague and spent 15, 20 minutes and kind of went through everything. So this was the agenda for the 3-day event. And I wasn't actually presenting by myself, Mark. I had a U.S. estate tax lawyer with me as my co-speaker, who is an amazing man who is very, very focused on these types of things. And we went back and forth, giving presentations all weekend.
I think one thing clear from that breakdown is, as you alluded to earlier, this is about a lot more than tax planning. This is a lot more than just sitting down with an accountant and doing some paperwork. That's a portion of it, but this really is full on generational family planning, which is something that you just don't see out there. And I think the important thing to also emphasize in this is a mastermind. So this is more than about just having information delivered to you. It's about working on that information right there with other people that are following the same or on a similar journey. So it really has a lot of high value because you're not just getting a lecture, you're working with the same people that are doing the same things, working through the same problems, and having the same access to those experts right there with you in St. Kitts.
100%. You're so right on that. Even the format, Mark, we did was not like rows of chairs. We were in a big circle and everyone was together. They all had their pens. We had these prepared notebooks and workbooks for them and everything like that. And during the presentations, we'd pause, we'd answer questions, we'd discuss. We went on little tangents and down different rabbit holes, but it was a fully interactive, immersive, back and forth discussion. It wasn't a conference, okay? That's why we called it a mastermind. A conference, someone talks at you and you receive the information. It's passive. This was active, and we went through everything together, and then we had the exercises and we discussed it in a group, and we shared all meals, so we continued to talk together. And then it was so cool because these families didn't know each other before, and these were all very successful, wealthy families. So it was amazing networking for them as well. So business opportunities and investments and, their kids and everything like this, they have an opportunity to interact with one another and to start forming a relationship with another good, honest, ethical, wealthy family. So there was just so much packed into just a short couple of days.
And that's exactly why we do so many in-person events in general now and are doing more and more and only have more plans down the road because you can learn a lot online. You can learn a ton online. I think a lot of us have learned a lot online, but at the end of the day, you can't replicate the value of actually shaking people's hands, meeting them in person, actually understand each other's journeys by talking to each other, learning what worked for people, some people what didn't work for other people. That you can only really get in person. So whether it's coming to a mastermind late St. Kitts, whether it's coming to our conference in March, or one of our many trips, expat exploration and investment tours, Paraguay, Brazil, etc. The highest value is getting in front of other people and shaking those hands. So I highly encourage people, whether it's an event like this is appropriate, whether the conference is more appropriate, or one of the trips, you really got to get to one of these events and really become part of the community, because that's going to take your journey just to a whole other level.
100%. So what happened with this one is we arrived in the mid-afternoon. We all got checked in to this beautiful resort on the beach in St. Kitts. It was a stunning resort. And the staff, let me go on record. The staff there, the St. Kitts people, were lovely, were so helpful, so kind, so nice. I was very, very impressed with them. So we got checked in. We had a sunset cocktails and a meetup, kind of a meet and greet for everybody. And then we went to the grill there, and we all had steak. Some people had the grilled lamb. Other people had steak, but many bottles of red wine flowing, and everybody just kind of broke the ice on that first night. The next morning, we started bright and early, I think something like 8:30. We actually rented, Mark, a full 2-bedroom villa with a huge living room on the beach inside this resort, and that was the setting. So we didn't use the conference rooms or anything like that. We used a villa because I wanted it to feel like home. We actually, a side note, we went and toured after, and we found that they have a presidential suite up on the top floor with these amazing views, which is even bigger location. So if you see some of the pictures on the Legacy, which are beautiful, this is going to be an upgraded for 2026 of that. So it's going to be amazing. So anyways, we started in the morning. We started with the presentations. We did a couple presentations. We took a coffee break. We did a couple more presentations. Then we all went and had lunch together on the beach. Beautiful, beautiful scenery. And then we came back and did afternoon sessions. And we think we went to, 5:30, 6 o'clock or something like that. We had a little bit of downtime. I think it was like drinking from a fire hose for a lot of the people, but lots of ideas. Then we went for sushi that night on the resort. We had this beautiful sushi dinner with these huge, the biggest sushi boats I've ever seen in my life. We ordered like a dozen of those, and there was just a ridiculous amount of sushi and lots of food for people. Some people didn't eat sushi, so there was other options for them, but there was so much food. And then the next morning, we started bright and early again on the remaining sessions. And then that last one where we just did Q&A and did, each person spoke and talked about what they learned, and they made commitments to their spouse as well as commitments to the group of things that they would accomplish. And we went on that for, 2.5 hours or something like that going through. One of the ladies started crying, and then another one started crying, and then a third one started crying. So it was rather emotional, the event.
Tears of joy, to be clear.
Very much tears of joy, but very much a hope for the future, and, also a little bit, hey, we made mistakes, but we're not too late. It's okay. We can fix these, and we can help and, help their kids. And it was very emotionally filled.
Never too late as long as you're still kicking, right?
That's right. So that's the thing is, even if you've made mistakes in the past, it's okay, because we're going to be here to support you and help you through this process. So everybody came away with real action items, a filled out workbook. So next steps, they even committed hey, within 30 days, we're going to have this meeting. With 60 days, we're going to have this meeting. We're going to talk to the kids about this. We're going to talk to the grandkids about that. This is the legal structure we need to do. That's the accountant we need to talk to, or the CPA, or the lawyer. There was real action items. So there was theoretical things in there, but there was a lot of practical stuff. I'm very much a practical person. And then after lunch that day, some people stayed on and continued on the resort and enjoyed the holiday in St. Kitts. That night, I went with the lawyer, and we had some meetings, some private meetings about some of our work together. We do a lot of work with some of my private clients. So we discussed that over dinner. And then the next day, we took a flight back to Miami. And it was actually quite funny, Mark. I think you saw the photos. I'm in the airport of St. Kitts, and someone came up and recognized me. And so we chatted for 5 minutes. He was a fan of my work, really nice guy, took some photos together. And then the funny thing was that he's been listening to my work, I guess he said, for 4 years. And he first heard of the country of St. Kitts and Nevis from my program, and was then there checking it out. Yeah. Exactly. So
he almost put it together afterwards. He was like, wow, it was crazy to run into Mikkel. And then I think it maybe another post or a comment, he said, come to think of it, I probably first heard about St. Kitts from Mikkel, and that's why I'm even here in the first place. So it's really one of those coming together moments.
Yeah. It's pretty funny. I mean, I'm used to getting recognized in Panama. If every time I go out of the house, basically, if I go for a walk or I'm out shopping with my wife or something, almost every time, call it 9 times out of 10, I get recognized on the street. Someone comes up to me, hey, I listened to the podcast. Hey, I came to Panama because of you. Or, hey, you helped me with this a few years ago. And that's amazing, But I mean, that's Panama. I help so many people with Panama. Panama's where I live. I kind of expect that. But, in a random island of St. Kitts, that's pretty cool. Actually, I was on a flight last weekend, and someone on the flight recognized me and come up and shook my hand and stuff like that, and was talking to me about these things. And so I get recognized all over the place, which if you guys see me around, I'm a really down-to-earth guy, and feel free to come up and shake my hand. I would love to meet you guys. I'm not scary. I'm not an arrogant guy, or, I'm actually really chilled out and pretty down to earth. I'm very particular, as I mentioned before, with work things, but I mean, just to meet me,
but approachable.
There we go. I don't know if those are contradictory statements, but I am a genuinely nice, down to earth guy. So please, because I've even had people, Mark, who have emailed me like, "Hey, I saw you in the mall, but I didn't feel it was appropriate to come over and say hello, or I felt shy or something." It's like, mate, totally come up and say hi to me. I would love to meet you.
They
It'd be
figured
my
you're so
pleasure.
busy pushing the paparazzi off, so they probably didn't want to bother you.
It's one of
We're not
those
there
things,
yet.
Mark, where I have the best of both worlds. Like, I am completely not famous to anybody in the world who's not into this type of stuff.
Right.
If you're into this
Anybody
type of
that
stuff,
recognizes you is going to be on the same wavelength.
exactly.
There's not that many smear pieces out there about you.
Exactly. Therefore, I'd love to meet you guys, and I'm super thrilled and very flattered, and just so happy. So, anyways, I met this guy in the airport. Seemed like a really cool guy. We took a picture together, and we got to hang out for 5 minutes and just chit chat. Super, super awesome. So, anyways, I went back to Miami and stayed at the same hotel and had a slightly better experience from that. But once again, I was just in for a couple of hours. I got to eat gluten-free pizza we ordered because one thing I will say about the U.S., which is very, very good, gluten-free options are plentiful, so I'm very appreciative of that.
Any major city, you will definitely have good options for sure.
Yeah, so we ordered a few gluten-free pizzas, and I made my staff eat gluten-free pizza. Basically, if you're around me these days, everybody's eating gluten-free. We're now doing gluten-free on basically all of the tours because I'm sick of having to check with all of the food individually. Can I eat this? Can I not eat that? Can I eat that? Etc. But, I mean, when you have a medical condition like me, and if I eat gluten, I will be in the fetal position and crying the next morning, which is just not pretty, and nobody needs to see that. And if I'm on a tour or a conference, like, it's just no good. No es bueno.
Right, when you're on a tour and you're going around meeting people all day, going and seeing other sites and this sort of thing, you want to be high energy. That diet, the meat and vegetables, you're going to feel a lot better eating that way anyway. So I'm going to say that putting them on that diet plan is a good way to go.
Exactly. Gluten-free doesn't mean boring food. Basically, my diet is like meat, like steak, high quality red meat or high quality fish or seafood, salad, and lots of vegetables. And that is my life. And I'm okay with that. That's a pretty nice diet if you ask me. Okay, I don't get to have cake and pie and things like that. That's all right. I'll trade that out and not be sick, and I'll just have lots and lots of meat and salad and things. So I'm happy.
And hey, if you ever need gluten-free recipes for home, we have a ton in this household, just to toss it out there, of you can get really good pies and this sort of thing that are gluten-free. So it does take a little work.
Is your wife
now.
gluten-free, or is your stepson gluten-free?
She is. Yeah, she is. So she makes all sorts of keto stuff, and she's been deep diving lately. So we have some stuff we could share for sure.
I think I knew that, but I forgot. Has she always been gluten-free, or is that a new thing?
Well, she has been for a while. She'll go through a phase or two where she's maybe being a little naughty and just accepting it that she won't feel great. So there might be phases where she isn't as strict about it, but because now it's not too bad because she's very, very strict about it normally.
Well, statistics say now roughly 1/3 of the U.S. population has some type of intolerance with gluten. So if you have problems with your skin, or you don't sleep, or you feel bloated, or you have bowel problems or something like that, you probably want to cut out gluten. Now, the interesting thing is, though, with gluten, not to make this a gluten episode of the Expat Money Show, but you actually have to remove it for at least a month from your diet before you'll really notice anything, because it stays in your system forever. And what happens is you can get permeability, which are like these micro cuts in your intestinal lining, and food and things that should not get stuck in your intestines do, that cause so much chronic inflammation and can literally shorten your life. So if you have problems, my recommendation is just cut out gluten for 6 weeks, 7 weeks, something like that, and see how you feel. And if that doesn't solve the problem, then maybe it's something else. But I would say if 1/3 of the population has a problem with gluten, that could be you.
Yeah, not to go on a whole. We could do a whole several health episodes. Not that we're experts, but we've experienced a lot of things. I think we could say. I mean, simply eliminating things that are inflaming your body, and many things are related to inflammation, one way or the other. Many problems you're having. The worst case scenario, you're going to feel better no matter what. I mean, you're going to feel better even if that's not the issue. You're going to feel better overall. There's no doubt about it. Again, 100%. Not medical advice, to be clear.
So let's get back on track. So,
yes.
Mark, the Family Legacy Mastermind was such a success. The feedback was so fantastic, and I had so much fun putting it together that, as I said a few minutes ago, we're going to be doing a second set. I just want to explain to everybody how it is going to work. So because actually there is so much to talk about in this, 10 presentations, we covered everything. I mean, we covered it, but I feel like there's even more to give. There's even more things that I want to share with people and can help people. But if we tried to do it a 4-day event and it was all together, at some point your brain just would not be able to handle any more information. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut it in half. We're going to take a couple days break in between to kind of, go through and process and let your subconscious brain, digest all of this information. And we're going to try to break it into 2 logical components. So you can do part 1 or you can do part 2. You don't have to do both of them. They're going to be slightly different. What that breakdown looks like, I don't have the answer for you right now because...
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. This is a work in progress. Like a lot of the things that we do, it's very organic. It is growing, and we have just under a year to kind of finalize everything, and I don't like rushing into it. But I just want to discuss with you guys that there will be 2 parts, and just have faith that they will be awesome. I will also make an offer to anybody who wants to join. If you sign up for part 1 and when we actually have the final agenda, part 2 makes more sense for you, I will allow you to swap to the other one free of charge, no problem whatsoever. Happy to accept you. And we can mix and match that as needed. But you got to kind of sign up. I will also go on record saying we can only fit in 10 families, okay? 10 families. So, we've got 300 business class, just under 100 first class, and maybe, 160, 170 private clients or something like that. So let's call it all, 500-600 clients that are going for this, and 2 sets of 10 families. So not a ton of room on this. It's going to be a first come, first serve. So you can go to expatmoney.com/legacy, either sign up for part 1, part 2, or the whole enchilada, and just have faith that they're going to be amazing, and we will do both of them for you. Now, what happens, Mark, if people are listening to this and they are not a Hub member? If they're not a Hub member, they're not getting an invitation, but they want to come to this, what can they do in advance?
Well, it feels like a pop kit quiz, but I've got a few options. They can go over directly if you want to learn more about the Hub. You can go over to expatmoney.com/join. That's probably the easiest way. It has a very simple breakdown of the benefits of the Hub. There's links in there if you need to dive even deeper, but you can sign up for the Hub right there. If you do need more information, want to hop on a call, there's also links that you'll find there to have a call with Melissa, our head of client intake. She'll go over all the options, all the benefits, and this sort of thing. You can also see a full breakdown of all of our membership levels. The business class of the Hub is basically our entry point. You can find that over at expatmoney.com/membership. I think either of those 2 avenues will get you to the right place at the end of the day.
Perfect. Can you please put the links in the show notes? So if we talk too fast, because you and I both have a tendency to
I don't think there's any
quickly.
if here. Yes.
Then they'll
and
just be able to
listen to us on 2 times
everything
speed. So yeah,
yes.
Yeah. You can access the full show notes over at expatmoneyshow.com, and you will see every link mentioned in this episode.
Perfect. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We are going to do an upgrade. We're going to have the presidential suite next time. We're going to have even more materials, new presentations. It is just going to be unbelievable. I'm just so passionate about these things as a father of 4 and having built up sizable wealth in my own life, preparing my children to receive wealth and to grow the wealth and to be responsible for it, and not just passing on the financial wealth, but all the other types of capital that go along with it, and the values and the mission, and why are we even here? Like, why are we doing these things? Like, I've said it many times on this program, like, I am on a mission. I am here to help families. We have Expat Money, which is the operating company of my business, and then we have my family office where we own a lot of assets and things like that. So my mission of the company is to help families, and then my mission of the family is to be able to have honest and ethical children and raise them correctly, critical-minded thinking. And I believe that we are under attack. I mean, literally around the world by many different actors. And I think the best thing that we can be doing is having families and raising them right and preparing them and passing on the wealth to them, like we talked about. So they have resources. They shouldn't be starting with nothing. They shouldn't be starting with zero. You should try to pass on as much as possible to them, all of the right values. And that's, I think, how we're going to win, because we're under attack, but it's not going to be just 1 year or 5 years or 10 years. We are under attack. We've been under attack for a long time, and I think we're going to be under attack for decades to come, and we need to fortify ourselves. We need to build a giant castle here and with a moat, and we need to protect ourselves, and we're going to need people to do it. So large families, raise them right, prepare them. That's what this is about, the 100-year mindset.
And the fact is, when you amass, well, really any amount of wealth and at all, one of two things is going to happen to it when you pass on. It's going to go down to responsible hands that you have, lined it up correctly to be passed on to and prepared them to, as we discussed earlier. Or it's one way or the other, it's going to the government. I mean, one way or the other at the end of the day. It's going to be lost in taxes, or it's just going to be withered away irresponsibly, I suppose, is another subset of that options. But you have two choices, and the first one is the one you get. It's the choice you get to make, and you can choose that choice. And if you're responsible enough and competent enough to amass that wealth in the first place, you're absolutely responsible and competent enough to make sure it gets handled well once you pass on.
Exactly. And think, really, if you do not take responsibility for the wealth, the money is going to flow to the enemy. It's either going to flow to the government, or if you're not prepared, you will lose your children to the woke agenda. You will lose them completely. I've seen it. I've seen it with clients. I've seen it with partners. I've seen it with other people out there. They will get eaten by the woke mind virus, and it will be used against you and everything that you hold dear. So we need to fortify our children, fortify society, and fight back against these things. Because you have to understand, traditionally, the right grows by having kids, but even the right is only having statistically 1.6 children per female in the United States, which is not at replacement levels. So the right grows by having children, and the left grows by stealing your children through indoctrination, okay? Because the left doesn't have, if you look statistically, the left has much less children than the right does, but they steal a lot more kids through universities. But here is the silver lining. The freedom-minded community, whatever name you want to slap on that, the freedom-minded community is having a lot more kids. They're not having 1.6. I am seeing larger and larger and larger families. So right now, us as parents or grandparents, we might only be 5-10% of the population. But watch out, in 10, 20, 30 years, when I've got 4 kids, hopefully, inshallah, a 5th child. A lot of my friends have 5, 6, 7, 8 kids. Within a couple of generations, we will be the largest group. And if we can fortify our children and not have them stolen by the woke mind virus, then we will be very, very strong, and humanity will prevail here.
Absolutely. I think it's a good message to send things home on. Although, of course, we know, even though St. Kitts winded down, this wasn't quite the end of your journey. I'm not sure if we even want to get into that in this episode or not, or save it for another one. But
the adventure will continue, but on the next episode of the Expat Money Show.
We'll leave something to tease them with. Yeah,
exactly.
There's more adventure. Let's just put it that way.
More adventure, more travel, more cool things happening. By the way, guys, we publish a brand new podcast episode every single Wednesday, 6 a.m., Mark, we've passed the 9-year mark in this show. We're going on 10 years, wow. Baby. 10 years of this program.
Yeah, every 2017. Wow, look at that.
That's pretty amazing. That's
impressive.
Pretty impressive. And you and I have been friends and doing content together since I lived in Abu Dhabi, and I've been here in Panama for 6.5 years. So we've probably been friends for 7.5, I would say, of those 9 years. So that's pretty awesome.
A couple more grays in this beard than I did then, that's for sure.
Yeah, me too. I used to have red in my beard. All the red turned to white. I don't know what's up with that.
Yeah, that's what happened. Weird. That's exactly what's happened. Thanks to me, yeah. The
Well,
ones that were
Marc,
a little shinier and a little glistening before, they're now not. But I like it. I feel like we're both aging gracefully. I'm going to put it that. I'm going to give ourselves a compliment.
Distinguished. There we go.
Yes, exactly.
So, Marc, let's leave them with a couple of important links. If you guys want to get more information about the Family Legacy Mastermind, go to expatmoney.com/legacy. The other big event, which is actually happening much earlier in the year, is the Wealth, Freedom, and Passport Conference. You guys can go to expatmoney.com/conference. The conference itself is the 6th and the 7th. There's going to be tons going on. Last year, we had about 200 people. This year, we're going to be about 300 people, which I believe for this venue will be the absolute max. So it's a beautiful venue. 2026. 2027, we're going to have to find a new venue because I'm sure we will run out of space. But 2026 is going to be at the same event as 2025. But we've got a whole new host of things, new speakers, new presentations, new tours, new activities. It is a family-friendly event as well. We're going to have a kids zone, so children of all ages can come. And we're going to have activities and probably face painting, and we're going to have just tons of kids things there as well. So very, very lively and active. And I think we'll end it there, Marc. What do you say?
I think that's I mean, we could list every event we're ever going to have, but you can find out all our events. Maybe easier just to send you to expatmoney.com/tours. You'll be able to see all of our in-person events there as well.
Marc, thank you very much for your time today. I will talk to you probably in an hour. And
probably in 5 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, probably in like 7 minutes. But Marc's like one of my best friends, guys. So not only do we work together, but we literally talk all day, every day about everything. So I'm super lucky to work with such a close friend of mine. Just super blessed.
Indeed.
There we go, Marc. Have a great rest of the day, and I will talk to you in a few minutes.
Have a good one.